What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie. This is part 2 of my deep dive into Neil Young's studio albums. It's a long deep dive. I'm going to be here for about a year, dropping one a week. I did not mention in part 1 the Zappa connection. According to one of the groupies that Howie tried to pick up at the Fillmore East, one of the groupies has 3 hours of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young fighting backstage at the Fillmore East. If I get my hands on those tapes, I will review them. Might be other loose connections, but really, I don't think there's a Neil Young reference anywhere in like musical reference anywhere in Zappa that I know of. Somehow I missed. I don't know. But that's the connection I'm going with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this album, my review of Everyone Knows This Is Nowhere, his second. And then, or Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, his second. And then I'm going to rank the songs on the album. There are 7. So that's how I will conclude the video. And then I will rank this album compared to the others, which right now we're just talking about the debut. So Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. This is the second of 2 albums that he released actually in the 60s. This came out in 1969. And yes, it is with Crazy Horse. And that might be, and the Crazy Horse at this time is Danny Winton, Billy Talbot on bass, Molina on drums, Winton on guitar, vocals, singing along with On Cinnamon. Plus, I think Bobby Notkoff plays violin on Running Dry, Requiem for the Rockets, giving that song a very Bob Dylan Desire era, which would not be for like, what, another 6 years, vibe. In a really positive, good way. And then Robin Lane does some guitar on one of the songs and some harmonies. But yeah, 7 songs, kind of a home run. I mean, his debut album I thought was pretty fantastic. I think probably the person in the world that least likes his debut is Neil Young himself because of the overdubs that were done. He follows it up with just an album that sounds like what we think of Neil Young sounds like. You got these really, almost, I want to say bare bones, because the Crazy Horse sound is like skeletal at its best. Drums, bass, some rhythm, just doing what a rhythm needs to do, with Neil just doing whatever Neil does over it. You got a little bit of country rock. You got some softer stuff. You got like something that's kind of an outlier to the Neil Young sound so far, which is something that kind of always pops up in Neil Young throughout the years. It's like, oh, that's a random song. Not the first time I will say that. Guitar workouts. It's a really, really good album. Opens up with Cinnamon Girl. A rocker, which is always, 2 things bother me about this song. One, there is that brief half-second, quarter-second at the end of the main riff where, because the guitar and the drums are so in sync, there's like this moment of like, what's going on? Like, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. And it's just that weird little, where like no cymbals there to fill it, no guitar, like there's no reverb, there's no echo. It's just this weird instance of silence, which makes it to me a little, it gives it this really herky, jerky, almost lack of flow that is probably intentional, I'm going to assume, but it's always kind of irked me a little bit. The other thing that bothers me, and it's not specifically about this song, but related to the song, is when I was in high school, 87, 88, we used to drive to high school. It was like 15, 20 minutes away, lived in LA, always had to drive no matter where you went. And the same time every day we drove, right? Because I had morning class. And we listened to Mark and Mark in the morning on KLOS 95.5. And I would say 4, maybe 5 days every week, in that 20-minute slot, they played Cinnamon Girl. And I probably heard over the course of, I think it was my senior year, I probably heard Cinnamon Girl 170 times every single day I went to school. I don't know what. The producer must have loved it. One of the Marks loved it. But man, did I hear that song a lot. So it's a great song. It's a great opener. It's a really nice, tight, under 3-minute rocker. Kind of classic Neil. That follows with Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, the title track. Nice little twangy, fun, upbeat country rock. Brilliant country rock. I like this song so much that I slightly changed the lyrics. And at the end of every school year, I teach at a relatively small school. We have less than 100 kids. Each of the classes like does a performance, like they sing a song. We did a medley of songs one year, and part of that medley was a chorus from Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. We rocked it. It was absolutely brilliant. But it's just a really nice, breezy country folk pop that is just a ridiculously good song. Just, it's country twang with like meets LA folk. Like Neil is embracing everything he understands about American music, a Canadian doing the best of American music. Fantastic song. We get that with Round and Round follows that. It's the third song on side A. Really gentle, ballady, kind of strumming, kind of slightly comforting type song. Kind of very skeletal, bare bones, honesty type thing. It's a really good song. It's nice. It's full. It's acoustic. It's a little bit like lullabying. I mean, it kind of want to just, it's comforting. It's not too like, it's not jarring you with some countryness or some rock. It's like the perfect song to precede the final song on side A, which is Down by the River. And Down by the River is just, it's like a prototype of a Neil Young song. It's stark, it's bare bones, kind of dark lyrics. The guitar solo is notes, you know, just playing the same note and then switching to one more note and just relentlessly attacking you with that. The panning of the guitars where Neil's just like on this single note attack on one ear, and on the other ear you just got the rhythm guitar just doing these like, just scraping these skeletal chords. It's like a long 9-minute indulgent, just awesome prototype of what a crazy horse Neil Young guitar extravaganza sounds like. It's a little bit disturbing. It's kind of brutal in its simplicity, and yet it's one of the most unique sounding songs I think ever created, and it's kind of the template for what like Neil would do so often in so many other songs, but a very like just raw version of that template. Fantastic song. Side 2, fifth song on the album, The Losing End, When You're On, kind of a slightly woozy, kind of slightly, you know, slurring, but not literally, but just feels like maybe you've been drinking in a bar when you're singing this type. The Losing End, When You're On, I mean, not a happy song because you're on the losing end. Just you got your country woes here. Yeah, really good song. Next, you have Running Dry, Requiem for the Rockets. This is the one on here that just kind of sounds a little bit more removed from everything else. It kind of reminds me of like a mix of like Traffic's version of John Barleycorn Must Die, mixed with, because of the violin presence, of like a low-key, slow burn-in, like Desire track, you know, with, what's her name? Starts with an S. On violin, that awesome violin player that Dylan had on the Desire album. Why can I not remember her name? It's an awesome name. But yeah, it's got that vibe. What is her name? It's going to pop in my head. But yeah, Running Dry, Requiem for the Requiem for the Rockets. It just has, it sounds like a requiem. It sounds kind of sad, sounds kind of a little maybe depressing. I don't know what's going on my screen up here. There's like all kinds of things happening. So anyways, this is a song that I could see Garcia covering coming out of space. It just has that moody, intense, deep vibe. It just perfect. Just an absolutely amazing song. I think he's got a repeating line of like, I'm sorry for the things I've done. There's just like darkness and sadness in the song. And then the album closes out with Cowgirl in the Sand, which 10 minutes, another epic rocker. You get like about 25, 30 seconds of like, something's going on. You're not quite sure what it was. Musically, it's really low key before we literally like stumble into the song. And then we're just like, dude, oh, we're here. And the guitar is playing and like this really neat drop after this quiet intro. And then it's just, It has a mysterious vibe to it. It just kind of feels like we've stumbled onto something and not really sure what, but it's great vocals, great guitar playing, another just really indulgent solos where Neil Young just does his version of what soloing is. The title, I remember the first time I remember hearing this song, I was in junior high, so I was 7th or 8th grade, 12 or 13 years old. And there was a girl that had just moved to my school from Texas. She had a little bit of a twang. She wasn't necessarily a cowgirl, but you could tell she was from Texas, y'all. And when I heard this song for the first time, all I could think of was her at the beach, because I ran into her at the beach once, and she was literally like, I had this crush on this cowgirl in the sand at the beach. And when I heard this song, I was just like, yeah, this is going to be my new favorite song forever. So I'm pretty sure that weekend I went and bought Decade. That was my first Neil Young purchase and was down the rabbit hole at that point. But yeah, just an awesome, what is it, less than 40 minutes of music. You got a couple just brilliant rockers, some country rock, couple weird 40 minutes almost exactly, a nice straight head rocker, couple like maybe more acoustic soft things. Just an absolutely brilliant album. If I would rank the songs on here, I would rank them, I have them right there. That's what they look like. I have the Losing End and Round, both at the back. I think those are to me, the least interesting. The Losing End, they're both really good songs. The Losing End is a good opening to what is a more intense side 2, I think. Round and Round is a much necessary sort of lying in the hammock type breather, just musically, before you get to the intensity of Down by the River. Cinnamon Girl, just a straightforward rocker, good song. Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, just such a fun song, such a great vibe. The country, the LA folk rock, just the lyrics, it's a winner of a song. It's catchy, it's hooky. It's one of those things that kind of earworms its way into you. Running Dry, Requiem for the Rockets, just a mysterious vibe that doesn't really, a desperate vibe, a pleading, begging vibe, and musically just Traffic meets Bob Dylan. Jerry could have covered it, and it would have been perfect coming out of space. And then I've gone back and forth on the last two, Down by the River and Cowgirl in the Sand, probably a lot over the decades. But I do think that the sequencing of the album, I think, makes me like Cowgirl better. And actually, I think if they were flipped, I would still like Cowgirl better. Because I think the starkness of Down by the River early on just makes the middle of that album just this like, almost like harrowing journey right in the middle of like this 40 minutes of music. And then Cowgirl in the Sand has a mystery that is almost a little uplifting and almost kind of resolves something and just has a little more like ambition to it. Like Cowgirl in the Sand fully knows that Down by the River exists and is taking parts of that and just making it just a richer, fuller experience. And so Down by the River, I have a 2, and Cowgirl in the Sand, I have to pop that at number 1 just because, I mean, the guitar solos on both are fantastic, but I think there's a little more richness to it. I think I like the verses a little better. And that connection with my Texas Cowgirl in the Sand from, 83, 82, whenever that was, just maybe personally, I like that song better. Once we get to the live stuff, those kind of go back and forth depending on the performance in the year. But yeah, that would be my ranking of the songs on this album, which means if I were to rank this album among the other ones, I'm not going to put this list up there, but out of the first 2, I have this at number 1. I have the debut at number 2. I think that's a pretty easy call. And then things get difficult from here on out, or maybe a little more difficult, maybe a lot more difficult. I don't know. I know, but I'm not going to give it away. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, Neil Young's second album. Officially out of the 60s, into the 70s. Got like 46 more albums to go, people. It's going to be a fun ride. All right? Let me know your thoughts on this album. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things. And go listen to this album. Peace. Talk to you later.